All right, so there was a lot of videos and a lot of work to get vector type to go with my spot illustration. But now I think I have it placed. What's the difference? I want my spot illustration, which is this smart object, to go above it, right? And to make sure it's still readable. What do you think? Is that still readable? Yeah, so it's not obscured too much. But this is where you play with the typesetting and the arrangement to make sure it is. I can also always make duplicates of it. So I'm going to duplicate by selecting them both, Command J. And now Command T on the duplicates, and I can try it a lot smaller, right? See if I can bring it in. Now, is that readable? No. But that's why I have them individual. So if I wanted to move this one up until it's readable, I can. And move this one down until it's readable, I can. So when I'm playing with typesetting, which is finalizing it, I often do different variations, right? So this one is what I would call smaller type, or I'll call it close type, which means that it's more closely related. It's kind of tighter to my illustration. Whereas these two, I'll put them into a folder. These two are more like wide type. They're going to the very edges of the poster and breaking the boundaries. So let's look at the difference between them. The wide type, breaking the background, but it can make the spot illustration feel small and less of a focal point. Close type fits closer within the background and looks a little bit better, in my opinion, with the spot illustration. So this is going to be my black vector type. Now, how can I post this? I would recommend either posting it this way with your spot illustration or without your spot illustration. So I'm going to post mine without my spot illustration into Canvas. This is the first requirement, just like you see with the past student work as I demonstrate the requirements, right? So the black type design, that is requirement 1. So let me post it. What kind of file format do I need to save in order to post it online? JPEG. That's an online raster file type, right? So yes, that will work great because I'm filling the rectangle. I don't need it to be transparent. So this is my black vector type setting. Not just my type design, but how it's arranged in the poster format. And so to save that, I need to go to the Photoshop. Oh, I guess I'm using 2026 right now. And I need to save this as a JPEG. So I'm going to save it to the desktop, and I'm going to say save as a copy with my name, assignment 6, and this is black type. And it's black vector type to the desktop as a JPEG. And it took a lot of work to get there, but it works. And then because it's a JPEG that's 16 by 20 inches at 350 pixels per inch, it's going to come in huge. I want to shrink that down. Now the next requirement is the color variation of the type. And that seems easy enough. But in order to know what you want your color variation to be, it's helpful to not only have your spot illustration turned on, it's helpful to know what your background's going to be. Because your background right now is gray, just to get a sense of where your border is. And you know the color of your spot illustration. Maybe you're still working to improve the color of your spot illustration. And I'm going to play with it a little bit. I'm going to make Menace just a little bit lower, so it breaks the bottom edge a little more, because I like that. And I might play with making Public just a little bit higher, so it breaks the edge a little more. Or I can play with the border by playing with this gray shape and transforming it a little bit differently. So I can shrink that in. Nothing wrong with that. And play with it, as long as I have a 16 by 20 full format, right? Or I can widen it so that nothing breaks the border, which might be the best choice in this case. So all these options. So for coloring, now I'm going to swap this for some texture or for some color for the background. So what should I use? Well, what I like to do is start with a gradient fill. So what I'm going to do is duplicate the gray, and then I'm going to double click it, and then I'm going to say gradient overlay. And for Public Menace, let's see, for kind of these old movie posters, seems like something kind of grayish or purplish might be a good way to start. So let me take out the warmth here and replace that with something more gray. And on the cooler side, like that. And then this color, let's swap that out. So I'm just using a gradient layer style. And these colors, I want to make them a little bit more blue and grayer. So like that, say OK. And then I don't want it reflected, I want it just linear. And then I can play with the scale of it. And maybe I want to add some more steps in there. A little deeper, a little redder. So there's lots of playing with the gradient, just showing you. So you can create your own gradient for sure. Ooh, I kind of like the kind of police colors around the police car. Okay, and now let me just play with the scaling of it. Yeah, I think that works. I can play with the angle of it. I kind of liked what I had. And then I can play with the opacity of it on the gray, right? Kind of fade it in and out. Okay, good. So that's one way to color a background. Another way is to just use color overlay and replace it all with one color. Let's say a green, right? And then you can have it at 100%, or you can fade it in, or you can use dissolve, my little trick for getting texture, right? And maybe I want it like this, where it has the gradient coming through that green speckled dissolve. And let's play with this color a little bit. A little less toxic gray. Green. Okay. So that's one way. Nothing wrong with that. And then that can inform how I make the letters, right? So now, how do I color my letters? I'm using my close type one, so I'm going to make a duplicate of that. Turn off the black, and I'm going to name this color close type. And I get to play with the layer styles here. Same way, color overlay, but I'm going to do it more at 100%, normal, and I'm going to pick whatever the colors I want are, right? So maybe like a dark green for that one. I can fill them with gradients. I can even give them offsets like a stroke around them. I'm going to use a white stroke on the outside, make it bigger, right? So it really shows up. And then if I want that same thing for Menace, all I have to do is right click and say copy layer, or copy, where is it, layer style, and then right click on my next type layer and say paste layer style. And now they match. So the big problem with outline type is you need to fill in the outlines, right? So what I use, just like when I did, what am I trying to say? Just like when I did line art and had to color behind it, what I'm now going to do is use my magic wand with contiguous turned on, and I'm going to select inside each of these letter forms, holding down Shift, then make a new layer on top, like so. Then I'm going to say Edit Fill, and I'm going to fill that with middle gray, 100%. And then how do I color it? I double click, and I turn on Layer Styles. That makes it all so it's a very clean vector color variation. So if I want yellow, right? If I want orange, if I want a weird green, if I want a blue. This is where looking at kind of poster inspiration can help. Maybe a red. Yeah, that works pretty well. Okay, now that's just 100% color fill. But what if I take that down, just like I did with the green, I set it to dissolve, and then behind it I put a gradient. And I can play with a different kind of gradient. Like this. You can play with the scale of it, the angle of it. Yeah, it looks pretty good. So public, I can add other effects as well, like a drop shadow underneath my type if I want. I'm going to make that dark blue. I'm going to really spread it. You see how that's coming behind? You can play with how noisy it is, how broken up it is. Don't want it too much. Just slight. But that helps it really stand out. And now I'm going to do the same thing for Menace. Now if I want the exact same thing, this is what I would do. I would click on my vector for Menace. I would use my magic wand. I would select the inside of each letter form with contiguous magic wand. And then I would make a new layer. And then I would say Edit Fill those selections with middle gray. Right? And then I would just copy the layer style that I used for public, and I would just apply it to this. Paste the layer style. And voila. So that's a pretty simple way, just using layer styles to set your coloring. But you do need to have a sense of what your poster is first. Now, I like all of that, but I think it's a little too tight at the bottom. You want to avoid what are called tangencies in design. And tangencies are uncomfortable touching, and I always say it's like an uncle at a family reunion, because that's a gross joke, but you remember it. So tangencies, uncomfortable touching. You don't want anything too close to the edge. You don't want anything overlapping, like just barely overlapping. You want to really push the overlap, or you want to pull away from it. So I feel like this is just a little uncomfortably close, an unintentional focal point. So what can I do?